This is something I've always wanted to do. How many of us haven't always watched the Naruto series and thought, if I were there, I would have done things differently? Well, I have too, and I decided to make a series about it. So I hope you'll sit right back, because I'm gonna spin up a tale of if the Amagi were in Naruto. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Before we begin though, we need to make a character to represent us. Let's see, what should we name them? Well, I'm gonna make him a boy, probably about the same age as Naruto, but what about that name? Well, there are many we could choose from, but for now, let's just call them Ethan. That seems fair. Next, we'll decide what we want our character's special jutsu to be. I don't want it to be overpowered, but I do want it to be something special. While I'm tempted to just go the Sharingan route because I love the Sharingan, I think it would be too cliche. So let's give them a hidden jutsu or a Kekai Genkai that isn't often used. Or maybe something totally new. I kinda like Guren's Crystal Nature transformation, so we'll say Crystal Release is their Kekai Genkai. Not just because it's a useful technique, but because I've always had a thing for pretty rocks. I collect them all the time. If it's an awesome looking rock, particularly if it's crystalline, it ends up in my collection. So that makes sense. And to keep from overly messing with the Naruto lore with our mere presence, I'll simply say our OC, like Naruto and Sasuke, was orphaned, but that it wasn't traumatic and we simply don't remember our family. This should give us a good neutral starting place, and could even give us some character development down the line if we seek a new arc about finding our family, though that's only an option and not a definite thing. I'm rather pleased with this character. How about you? Alrighty, let's jump right in. I wake up in the morning, not too long after the sun rises. Not particularly because I wanted to, but because I had to. If it had been up to me, I would have stayed in bed until at least noon. I'm a bit lazy that way, but what is life if not to be enjoyed? That being said, I do dream of becoming a shinobi one day, so that means I have to make sacrifices, and thus my alarm clock is waking me up at the very crack of dawn. I sit up in bed, stretch with a yawn, and proceed to crack my knuckles. I slip out from under the covers and grab something to eat. I've never really been a big breakfast kind of guy, and because I don't like cooking for myself, I tend to eat ready-made foods or easily prepared things. For today, I chose Tobirama O's. I poured myself a bowl and put in the milk. Grabbing a spoon, I head back to my bed and sit down on it, turning on the TV. My apartment was a one-room apartment that had a small kitchen across the way. It wasn't too far removed of what you might expect of your average hotel room, but a high-quality hotel room, like something you might get at a resort. The bed was a fold-out that turned back into a couch, but I was always too lazy to turn it back into a couch unless I was expecting company. Turning on the TV, I begrudgingly chose the news as opposed to the cartoons that were on. Sitting there, I ate my cereal in silence as the news anchors began to explain world events that had transpired in Konoha and in the greater world while I'd been asleep. As usual, nothing that great happened. Why do I even watch this stuff? I wondered as I put my bowl into the sink. Answering myself in my head, I knew that it was because it was my duty to stay informed as a shinobi. Information was as valuable as money and as dangerous as any kunai. To equip oneself with knowledge was as necessary as a shuriken or scroll. Heading to the bathroom, I took a quick shower and then brushed my teeth. Grabbing my clothes, which consisted mostly of a simple loose-fitting shirt and some shorts, I began to make my way out of my apartment. Standing on the balcony, I saw the last moments of dawn as sun broke the horizon. Looking out over the village, I remembered why I loved my apartment. The view was amazing. Looking over the village toward the monument that served to remember the previous 3 Kage and venerate the current, I reflected on my desire to one day become Hokage. Truth be known, it was a common dream, and it really did seem unlikely that a nobody who didn't even know his own clan name would ever make it to that position. Not that I didn't believe it could happen, I was simply a realist, and I came to understand that while the seat of the Hokage was everything a guy could want, it was really just a position to help support the village, and I could do such as a shinobi of any rank. Looking down, I placed my hand in the Magatama necklace I wore, green agate, one of the best stones I'd ever made. It seemed to glow gently with my chakra. It was another day for the academy, and as I took in the cool morning air, I was filled with vigor to start the day. Stepping up onto the railing of my balcony, I stood on the very tips of my toes, my hands held out as if I were absorbing the very sunlight itself for energy. I jumped forward in a leap of faith, landing in the hay below. Honestly, the merchant who had no other choice but to park his product there hated me, but I just couldn't resist. An avid game player, I was sure to make the cry of an eagle every time I did it before being chased off by the older farmer preparing to peddle his goods. I would run for it with a chuckle, looking behind me. No harm done. Hay was hay. My grandiose entrance didn't hurt it any. Making my way through the village, I went toward the academy, where I waited outside with the rest of the class. So many unique faces, each one with their own name and personalities. They helped remind me that I wasn't the only one in the world, something that I often forgot the moment I got home. It was a lonely life indeed, but considering that I basically lived in the ideal bachelor pad for free, it wasn't so bad. I knew it could have been far worse. Looking around, I knew I wasn't the only one either. Many of the kids nearby had lost family due to the Third Shinobi World War, and some after. Some were tortured by it. Me, I simply didn't remember my family. It hurt, yeah, but it wasn't something that caused me to lose sleep. After all, my life now was as it had always been. Don't pity me, I'm not really looking for a shoulder to cry on, it's just another day, taking life by the ear and steering my future wherever I wanted to go. Looking over, I saw Sasuke sitting there, the edgy boy, the definition of cool. He always rubbed me the wrong way. I never could find myself able to make friends with people who didn't smile. Not that I didn't try, they just felt so insincere. Well, in most cases they did. Sasuke had a reason for never smiling, so I cut him some slack. But that didn't make being friends with him easy. I don't think he really wanted friends. I had no choice really but to oblige him. Then there was Naruto, the outcast, the pariah. Kids talked about him all the time, joking about him, calling him a freak. Frankly, I didn't get it. What was so unusual about this boy that people would try to throw him out like this? Like, it was horrible. I had seen children and adults pick on him the same. Why was that? Was he part of some dishonored clan? Was his father a traitor to the village? To me, that didn't matter much. I didn't know why people hated Naruto. All I knew is that I kinda liked him. He was funny, always joking around, playing pranks. He was a bit of a troublemaker and ended up on the news more than once. Maybe that's another reason why I watched, to see what my classmate might attach to his rap sheet next. Bad news indeed, but he wasn't an evil person. Not that I could tell. He was an orphan too. Considering how he was treated, maybe he was just lonely. Standing out here early, I wondered why we had to do this. If we were here early, why couldn't the schoolmaster be? Tapping my foot, eventually the school was opened and we were allowed to go to homeroom where we would all take our seats. Naruto would be sitting off to the side, and near him was Sakura Haruno. On the other side of the class was Sasuke Uchiha. To the early bird went the worm. Sakura was so passionate about Sasuke that she would basically race to class to sit next to him, and Naruto would race to class to sit next to her. And Sasuke, well, he just looked like he wanted to be left alone. Frankly, I couldn't blame the guy, though the romantic side of me wished that I had even half as much game as he did. Nope, I was cursed with level 3 Skibbity Ohio Riz. Who wrote this script? Anyway, I was just your awkward normie. If this were a shonen anime, I'd likely be one of the background characters who showed up for one episode and only ended up as a cameo later on down the line. That's how it felt, at least. That being said, I wasn't a total washout. I was actually slightly above average with my ninjutsu. I don't know if it was because I was a prodigy or because I was smart, but my chakra control was a good bit above average. I suppose it had to do with my use of crystal release. I was always making new gems, particularly in the shape of a magatama, my favorite shape to make. It was less training, more of a hobby, though I had been working on something that one might consider training, although this was more curiosity than anything. More recently, I'd taken a bit of an interest in sealing jutsu and formulas. I was total garbage at it, but I had managed to advance with just enough that I was able to seal a bit of my own chakra into my magatama, which is why this particular necklace was so special to me. It was the first success I had in doing so. This curiosity was likely what allowed me to excel in most jutsu once I understood how they worked. I was far from the top student, but let's just say I wasn't at the bottom. No, that was Naruto, sadly. Ignored by other kids, ignored by adults, ignored by teachers, he was pretty much left to figure out everything on his own. If he couldn't understand it, he just had to deal, because nobody would explain it to him. The day began with Irika coming into the classroom. There he stood, holding a chart in his hand. "Today is the day of the final exams," he said. "When I call your name, you'll come down and display your mastery over the clone jutsu." I leaned back and relaxed. The clone jutsu was something I mastered a while ago. Due to my love of creating gems, my chakra control was fairly refined, and due to my artist spirit, I had quite a bit of eye for detail, so I knew I'd get this in the bag. But then again, most of the kids did. Almost all of them it was. "Ethan, it's your turn," Irika-sensei said. I got up from my seat and began making my way down. I stood in front of the class. I realized all the other students were watching me, judging me. I could understand how not everyone might be able to pass. There was some pressure. I was never the best under pressure, which was ironic considering that I made crystals, with crystals being known only to form under intense pressure. I tried to imagine the class in their underwear and immediately regretted the decision. So that being said, I simply took a deep breath and focused on Irika-sensei. I formed a clone of him perfectly. He told me it was good, but he wanted me to make one of myself instead. Closing my eyes, I tried to craft a mental image of myself in my own mind. I saw myself in a mirror like I did so often every day, and then crafted my clone based on it. Irika wrote something down on the paper on his clipboard. "The clone is good, but the image is mirrored." I looked over at my clone and realized that I forgot to flip its traits and sent it out mirrored. Irika then smiled. "Still impressive. Just gotta deal with its mirrored traits. You pass." I sighed with relief. I suppose it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. Normally, I could make a perfect clone, but it must have been because I was being watched that I goofed up. After me, though, was Naruto. Naruto was asked to do the same, and despite not being as shy as me, he failed to do so. It was the most pathetic clone I'd ever seen, but I could tell he was trying. He just seemed to be missing something important. The entire class laughed at him, save a few. I was one of the few who didn't laugh. I felt bad for him instead. It must have been hard to be the laughingstock of the whole day, not to mention Irika informed him that he failed and would need to try again later. That day, he handed us our forehead protectors and told us that we'd be assigned to teams in the upcoming days. I stepped outside. Various kids were showing off their new forehead protectors to their proud parents. I smiled as I watched. I had nobody to show it off to, but that was okay. I was doing this for me, not for anyone else. Looking over though, I saw Naruto sitting on the swing set all alone, watching the whole thing go down. I heard some of the parents notice him and begin to talk about him. They weren't very quiet. Surely Naruto could hear them. They began to walk off with their kids. Me, on the other hand, I was left standing there all alone. I saw Naruto, forlorn and in the silent throes of depression. Unable to help myself, I simply walked over. "What, are you here to gloat?" Naruto asked. I shook my head. "No." I sat down beside him in the grass as the wind gently pushed him from side to side. "This is a peaceful spot," I said to him. "It's quiet, gets just the proper amount of shade and wind. Makes one feel like they're in paradise." "Why are you here?" Naruto asked. It seemed the icebreaker shattered against the ice. Guess I was gonna have to dive straight into conversation. "I came to see if you were okay." Naruto looked confused. "Why does that matter to you? Go away." I didn't move. "Naruto." I tried to start the conversation, but wasn't sure what to say next, so an awkward span of silence ensued while I tried to think up what to say. "I know you're upset, but things will get better. You just gotta try." "Try? I try every semester, but I still get held back. Trying isn't good enough." I went to say something more, but then Mizuki-sensei showed up. "Can I talk to Naruto alone, please?" I wasn't an adult, and I respected Mizuki-sensei, so I got out of the way and let him do as he asked. "I'll talk to you later, Naruto." I began to make my way off. I spent the remainder of the day just enjoying myself, eating out, exploring the village, and playing at the arcade. Going out to get some barbecue for supper, I ended up striking up a conversation with Choji, who invited me to sit with him. We discussed the cuts of meat we were eating, and he said most of it was called trash meat, but he explained to me that it was still delicious, not because of what it was made of, but because of how it was cooked. He said people were like that too, that we're all just trash meat, but we can become gourmet if we're cooked the right way. Amazed by the wisdom of Choji, I decided to ask him more, but he told me I would need to climb the mountain again for another question. Laughing and eating more gourmet trash meat well into the night, I decided to head out. There, I thought I spotted Naruto. He was looking over his shoulder and displaying the stereotypical signs of someone who was about to do something they knew was wrong. Normally, I enjoyed seeing whatever pranks Naruto would come up with, but tonight I knew that nothing good or funny could come from this, so I began to follow him. As I did, I saw him head up to the rooftops, and I followed him further. Trying to stay well out of sight, I watched as he made his way to the Hokage's residence. This was particularly odd. I mean, being an orphan myself, I knew it wasn't uncommon for us to either visit or be visited by Hiruzen, but what was he doing there at night? Something didn't make sense to me. I knew if I was caught, I'd get in big trouble, but the same was true for Naruto, and given that he was already in a depressed state, I didn't want to see him do anything he might regret. So, against my better judgment, I followed him in. When we entered, I saw him move towards something. It was the Scroll of Seals. "What are you doing?" I said as my Magatama necklace began to show light. Naruto looked as if he might jump out of his skin. He turned around to face me. "Nothing." I shook my head. "Doesn't look like nothing." "What were you going to do with the Scroll of Seals?" I asked. Naruto looked at it and then down. "Naruto," I asked. Naruto sighed. "I was going to take it." "Why?" I asked. Naruto looked up. "Mizuki told me that if I stole it, I might be able to learn a jutsu that would allow me to pass the test." I was surprised. "Mizuki told you this? Like, he actually told you to steal it?" Naruto nodded. "He cares about me. He wants me to succeed." I shook my head. "No, Naruto, Mizuki's lying to you. If he cared, he would have taught you the clone jutsu himself, not ask you to do this. This is dangerous, and I think it's also treason to the village." Naruto seemed confused by this. I began to think about it. "I think we need to tell Mr. Hiruzen about this," I said. Naruto shook his head. "No, please, I can't fail this test again. If I fail it again, my dreams of being a shinobi will be dashed." My heart was bleeding for him, but I couldn't let this stand. Something highly illegal was going on here, and was a possible sign of conspiracy. "Naruto, I won't let you fail again. I will personally teach you the clone jutsu. We'll spend all night practicing if we have to, but we have to report this to Hiruzen. If we don't, the village could be in danger." Naruto sat there. "But what if I fail?" "You won't," I told him. "But I might." I shook my head. "No, Naruto, you've got to believe. The process of making a lively clone is to believe in it. You have to care for it, believe in it, craft it with love. Without these things, it ends up like me." As I stood there, I began to understand why Naruto was having a hard time with this. "I believe in you, Naruto," I said. He looked up at me as tears began to roll down his cheeks. I pulled him into a hug. "You're a good shinobi. I know that much. I believe it. I believe in you. But a good shinobi would report this suspicious behavior to the Hokage. So we need to tell Mr. Hiruzen about Mizuki, okay?" Naruto nodded. "Okay." I led him out of the office and we turned ourselves into the guards. They would wake the Hokage and put us into a meeting with him. Naruto was nervous about getting in trouble, but for some reason I was not. I was at peace. I turned to Naruto and put my hand on his shoulder. "Don't be afraid. The truth will set you free." We would be set before the third Hokage, who would ask what we were doing there. I looked to Naruto to see which of us would speak first. He seemed hesitant, so I began. "I was coming home from dinner when I saw Naruto. He seemed to be acting strange, so I decided to follow him. He entered the Hokage's residence, so I trailed him in. There I saw him attempting to snatch the Scroll of Seals, but I stopped him and Naruto then cut me off and began to explain. "I tried to steal the scroll, sir." Hiruzen pinched his tear ducts and let out a stressed groan. Naruto continued. "I was wrong, but I was desperate, sir. I didn't pass my exam today. Again. I wanted to pass, so I sought a way to learn a jutsu that would allow me to pass." "So you came up with the bright idea to steal the scroll?" Hiruzen asked. Naruto shook his head. "No, I didn't." Hiruzen was confused. "Then who did?" "Ethan?" Naruto shook his head. "I was approached by Mizuki, one of the school teachers. He told me that the only way to surely pass the test was if I stole the Scroll of Seals and learned one of the forbidden jutsu." Hiruzen was shocked. "Why would he say that?" It was then that I chimed in. "That's the thing, Mr. Hiruzen. When Naruto told me about it, I got a bad feeling. Isn't stealing that scroll treason?" Hiruzen nodded. I thought about it. Is it possible that Mizuki wanted to get Naruto into trouble? Or maybe take the scroll for himself? Hiruzen thought about this. "It is possible, but do you have any proof that Mizuki was going to do any of this?" Naruto shook his head. "Then we can't rightfully bust him. We need proof that he's doing these things, elsewise we'll simply have to believe that it was you acting on your own, Naruto." Naruto seemed to get nervous about this. Then I spoke up. "Why not let Naruto steal the scroll?" Hiruzen looked at me with a bit of a confused look on his face. "Do you hear yourself, Ethan?" I nodded my head. "I do, sir. I'm not talking about a real scroll. Let's give Naruto a fake one, like the real one, and then set him loose. We'll see what Mizuki decides to do. Hiruzen thought about this and then agreed to the idea, so we all prepared. We would give Naruto a large empty scroll and would each follow behind and in disguise. As we waited, Mizuki eventually showed up to take the scroll. This proved Naruto's story. With that said, Hiruzen would step out and have Mizuki arrested, and Naruto would be cleared due to his honesty and his stressed state that caused him to make a bad decision. I would take Naruto home. "Thank you, Ethan," he told me. "You stopped me from making a mistake." I would smile at him and tell him it was okay. "We're not done yet," I said. "I'm gonna teach you to make a clone." Naruto shook his head. "You've already done enough for me. I won't make you do more." That's when I told him that I'd already promised to teach him and that I wasn't gonna go back on my word. I would take Naruto in and together we'd work on making clones together. We would work all night until we both passed out from exhaustion. We would wake up later on as the morning sun had already broken the horizon. Naruto realized he was late. He got his shoes on and dashed out the door. I would follow. He got there right as they were about to cancel his personal exam. Being allowed to enter with him, I would take a seat at the back of the class to observe quietly. As Naruto stood there, I would offer him a thumbs up, coaxing a smile. This was it, the culmination of our work. "I believe in you, Naruto," I said, drawing an angry eye from one of the proctors. Irika then spoke. "You may begin." Naruto took a deep breath and closed his eyes. "I can do this," he said. He put his fingers together. Suddenly, a perfect clone appeared beside him. At first, Naruto was shocked. Then he looked like he might burst into tears. Irika would inform him that he passed and would offer him a headband. Naruto would take it, and together he and I would begin to celebrate, going out to eat and partying the day away. Naruto would get to join a team of his very own. As the day ended, we parted ways and I returned to my own home. Once I entered, I would spend the rest of the night sleeping, catching up on what I had lost teaching Naruto. The next morning, however, I was awakened by a call on my phone. Groggily, still half asleep, I reached out and took the phone and answered it. "Hello?" I yawned. It was Irika. "There's an issue with your team placement, Ethan. We need you to come in and help us resolve it." Letting out one more yawn, I then spoke. "When can I come in?" 1 p.m. sound good? "We need you to come in now." I groaned. "Right now?" "We're sorry, Ethan, but it's important." I let out a sigh. "I'll be there in 30. I hung up the phone. I rolled out of bed and made my way to the bathroom where I'd splash my face with water to drive off the remnants of sleep. Getting prepared, I grabbed the toaster strudel and some juice, heading out the door, moving at my own pace while I ate. Eventually, I made my way to the academy. Entering the doors, I went to Irika's office where he was going over some papers. "Please have a seat," he said. I sat down. He began to speak. "We have an unusual circumstance." I raised a brow. "Unusual how?" Irika put the papers down. "It seems that we've got more shinobi than we do mentors right now." I shook my head in confusion. "What does that mean?" Irika then began to explain. "We had a set amount of mentors prepared to take on genin. As you know, it's customary that only 3 genin be on a team at any point in time. However, we have an overflow of students, being that all the teams are filled, and we still have 1 student left over, that being you." I shook my head, unable to understand what he was saying. "You mean I'm not going to be allowed to become a genin?" Irika shook his head. "I'm not saying that, I'm just saying this is an extraordinary circumstance." "Well, that sounds like it's Konoha's fault," I said. "What do you plan to do about it?" I asked. Irika then presented me 2 options. "The first option is we can hold you over until the next group of shinobi are ready to graduate and put you on a team with them." "How long will that take?" I asked. Irika looked over the papers. 1 year. I scoffed. "Too long. What's option 2? "Option 2, Irika said, looking over the correspondence with the Hokage. "We can put you on a current 3-man cell as a 4th member. It would be strange, but it's the only option we have. Normally, we'd just hold you over, but the Hokage seems to like you, so he said we could make an exception if you wanted to become a 4th wheel." "I'd much rather be put on a 4-man team than wait." Irika nodded. "I thought you might." He presented me a piece of paper. "Here, this is the team listing. Please keep it confidential. Nobody's supposed to know about it, so don't leak. What team would you like to be put on?" I looked the paper over and discovered Team 7, which would consist of Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, led by Kakashi Hatake. "Team 7, I said. Irika nodded and wrote something down. "I'll send the message over to Kakashi. Introductions will begin tomorrow at 8. Don't be late or you will be held over." I nodded in understanding and stood. I left and headed home. It truly was an unusual circumstance. I'd never seen a 4-man team before, but considering that I apparently was the odd man out, had to make an exception. Didn't bother me any though. It seemed like it might be more fun to have an extra teammate. Going home, I spent the rest of my day thinking about tomorrow. I would get an idea. Given that I knew who my team was, I decided I would make them a gift. So I got to work crafting one to show my gratitude for accepting me onto the team. The next day, I headed back to the academy where I'd see a Jonin standing outside. He wore a mask and had one eye covered by his forehead protector. He was the definition of cool, but I was slightly afraid that he'd be the over-dramatic sort like Sasuke. I was pleasantly surprised when I was met with a calm voice and a subtle smile I could only detect by the shape of his eye. "Good morning. I assume you're Ethan," he said. I offered a slight bow of respect. "Yes, sir. I assume you to be my new sensei, Kakashi Hatake?" The masked man nodded. "Indeed." "I hope I haven't left you waiting long," I said as I returned to my full height. "Nah, I like to be fashionably late, and I see you do too, so I think we'll get along well." He opened the door. "Come, let's go introduce ourselves." He then walked down the hall until he reached a certain door. "Give me a second to get them warmed up for you." Kakashi would open the door and stick his head through, only for a chalkboard eraser to drop on his head. I was shocked that a Jonin could fall for such an easy trap. Perhaps he simply didn't know Naruto as well as I did. "I can already tell I'm not going to like you," he said as he opened the door up the rest of the way and entered the room. Dusting his hair off, Kakashi spoke. "I don't know how much you've heard, but Konoha made a bit of a flub, and our team is to be a 4-man cell instead of 3. That being said, we have yet to meet the last of our teammates. I hope you will all offer him a better greeting than I." Naruto was already loading a spitball into a straw. That was when I stepped in. The moment he saw me, he gasped and sucked the wad of paper down his throat, causing him to choke for a moment. He looked up. "Ethan, it's you!" "You two know each other?" Sakura asked. Naruto nodded. "Yeah, Ethan's like my best friend." He walked over and offered me a hug, which was a hug I accepted. It was then that I spoke. I know this is an unusual circumstance, but I just wanted to thank each of you for welcoming me onto the team. I actually made you each a gift if you'll accept it." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a red agate magatama necklace not too unlike my own. "This is sealed with my chakra. It glows in the dark if you need some light." I handed it to Naruto, who was so ecstatic that he put it on immediately. I then went to Sakura. "For you, I made one out of pink agate. I hope you like it." She was moved by the gift and took it with gratitude and a slight bow. I then moved to Sasuke. "I also made one for you, Sasuke." I offered it to him and he looked it over. It was blue. He offered an unenthusiastic thanks before taking it from my hand. And then I turned to Kakashi. "And for you, Kakashi-sensei, something a little more special. A black agate magatama. It too has chakra sealed into it. It'll glow purple in the dark, but that glow is also a dark light, meaning if you ever need a dark light for investigations or anything, it should help you." Kakashi took it. "Well, that's quite thoughtful of you, Ethan." I offered them all a bow and then took my seat. Kakashi looked over the magatama in his hand before putting it on. "See, Naruto? That's how you're supposed to make a first impression." Naruto looked to the side with a bit of shame, but also couldn't help but smile. Kakashi took a deep breath. "Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Ethan, let me be the first to say welcome to Team Kakashi. Let's hope you survive long enough to count." And that's where I think I'm going to call it for the day. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm hoping to make a big series out of this one, so don't be afraid to drop a comment down below and mention upcoming arcs and things you'd probably do in it. You guys might not think so, but I really do read the comments, so be sure to let me know what you think. If I see it and think it's a good idea, I might even add it to the story. Anyway, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified when more videos like this drop. And be sure to check out these other great videos. Until next time, peace out.